What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Muzzle Bro channel, and today we are doing the first ever suppressor review on the Muzzle Bro channel, and we are reviewing this bad boy right here, the Taquito by Fletcher Rifle Works. So we did a 1,000-round review on this bad boy at the range, and we're going to dive into everything today, including the specs of the suppressor, how it performed during our 1,000-round range review, how the gun sounds suppressed versus unsuppressed, comparing directly how the Taquito performed to a bigger, bulkier suppressor that also shoots 22LR, if the suppressor actually helped or hindered the function of the gun, how to take the suppressor apart, put it back together, and how dirty it got after 1,000 rounds, and then kind of our overall impressions and if we think it's worth you buying. So let's go ahead and start with the specs of the suppressor. So the Taquito suppressor by Fletcher Rifle Works is going to be a 22LR suppressor that's going to direct thread on your gun, classic half-by-28 thread pitch on this bad boy. The overall length of the suppressor is 5.75 inches. Suppressor has a 1-inch diameter as well. The Taquito is pretty light, coming in at 3.5 ounces, and is made of PH17 stainless steel and 6061 aluminum. As far as colors from the suppressor, it comes in the black, which we have here out on the channel today, also a coyote tan and OD green. So the first impressions I had of the Taquito were pretty good. Very lightweight can, very easy to thread on to the Ruger Mark IV Tactical here. And before taking it to the range, just putting it on the gun and playing around a little bit, I did really appreciate how lightweight it was. As you're gonna see a little bit later on in the video, compared to the other suppressor that we tried on this gun, the Taquito was much more lightweight and just felt really good on the gun. So first impressions going into the range day were pretty good. And thankfully the good vibes continued into our first shots with the suppressor. So we got the very first shots with the Taquito suppressor from Fletcher Rifle Works, and we are running that today on a Ruger Mark IV Tactical with a bunch of awesome upgrades from Tandem Cross, so it should be a pretty sweet little pistol. Let's go ahead and do the first shots. They're pretty quiet, right? They're pretty quiet. Works pretty well. So noise with suppressors can actually be really difficult to kind of hear, especially through these like little YouTube videos, but it's incredibly quiet. This setup with the Taquito suppressor is 100% absolutely hearing safe. Not gonna leave your ears ringing. Sounds really good to the naked ear. Now you can definitely appreciate the sound differentiation on this bad boy when we're directly comparing this setup suppressed to unsuppressed. So we're gonna go ahead and shoot 5 rounds without the suppressor and then 5 rounds with the suppressor. 5 rounds, no Taquito. 10 rounds with the Taquito from Fletcher Rifle Works. Oh, by the way, use code BROKE, 10% off at FletcherRifleWorks.com. Okay, so definitely a lot quieter, which is great. That is the purpose of the 22LR suppressor. But I did really want to make a point to say that this is absolutely hearing safe and sounds really good in person. All right, guys, so we did have a little bit of a snafu at the range. Nothing to do with the Taquito suppressor at all, but actually kind of had to do with my Ruger Mark IV build here. I'm not really sure what it was, whether it be some of the aftermarket components I installed, or potentially I just had a bad batch of ammo I was using. But I was actually getting some pretty significant malfunctions with this gun during the 1,000-round range review of that Taquito. Well, that's not good. Dude. It's gonna be a long range review. But I do actually have to give a ton of credit to this little suppressor because it did actually help the gun function quite a bit better. The gun seems to be functioning better with the Taquito. Probably did that little bit of extra back pressure from the suppressor. So I think I'm done shooting this gun unsuppressed for the day because 1, it's a lot quieter, 2, it's a lot more fun, and 3, it's actually running. Typically, if I'm having issues with the gun, I add a suppressor and I want to blow my brains out even more because the malfunctions continue and kind of actually get worse. But in this case, this setup actually ran a lot better with the Taquito than without, which I did really appreciate. So far in the range review, we've heard the Taquito. It sounds amazing. It's very lightweight, allowing us to shoot it proficiently and quickly on a pistol setup, and it actually did help this setup function quite a bit more reliably. So at this point, I directly wanted to compare the Taquito to another suppressor. The suppressor that we put head-to-head with the Taquito is actually the Griffin Armament Bushwhacker 46 suppressor, which is obviously a very large bore and large can. This suppressor does actually shoot 22LR, so I was really kind of curious if a bigger, bulkier suppressor was gonna sound quite a bit better than the smaller little Taquito. So we had to try it out at the range. So I know we're out here doing the 1,000-round range review of the Taquito suppressor, but we also brought another suppressor out here today, the Bushwhacker 46 from Griffin Armament. And obviously there's a huge size and weight differentiation between these two cans. The Taquito is obviously made specifically for 22LR, and the Bushwhacker 46 can do 22LR all the way up to 450 Bushmaster. So we have the can. I want to kind of compare the sound between the two. Obviously the Bushwhacker is a hell of a lot bigger, a hell of a lot heavier, but does that actually equate to a hell of a difference in the sound? Let's find out. So we have our baseline unsuppressed gun. This is a lot of fun, isn't it? All right, so even though the gun sucks, you can definitely tell that it's quite a bit louder without any suppressor. We'll go ahead and add the Taquito and then compare to the Bushwhacker. So we got that same gun setup, but we do have the Taquito added. We got 10 rounds again. Not only curious to see the sound differentiation, but also curious to see if it actually will jam a little bit less because of that extra back pressure due to the can. But we'll find out. Okay, so we actually got a full mag ran through, so no jams with the Taquito, and obviously a very quiet suppressor. 22LR is a pretty quiet round, and Taquito does a great job of quieting it down even more. Let's try that big boy, the Bushwhacker. All right, so funny enough, I'm kind of just thinking through this before we finish off the test here, and I'm curious to see if the gun is going to get those jams still with the Bushwhacker, because it does have quite a bigger bore than that Taquito. I don't think we'll be getting the back pressure we need to actually cycle the gun reliably, but we'll see. As far as sound suppression, I really don't know. The Bushwhacker 46, I've shot this suppressed quite a bit with 22, and it does a pretty good job of quieting it down. But I guess my question is going to be if it's really worth the significance and weight and size. Okay, so we got the Bushwhacker 46. The first thing you notice is how much of an absolute brick this thing is on the end of the gun, especially compared to the Taquito. Shooting the gun unsuppressed and then shooting it with the Taquito, the weight of the gun feels similar. Obviously because that can is pretty small, but now we got this big old brick. So let's see both the sound quality of suppression as well as the reliability. So here we go. Oh, all right, so we do have our first jam, and we have another jam, whoop, and another jam, and then it kind of worked. Okay, so as the prophecy foretold, the Bushwhacker 46, because of that bigger bore diameter, is not really giving us the back pressure we need to cycle the gun appropriately. As far as the sound suppression goes, I don't know, it actually sounded about the same to me. So really comparing these two cans, even though this is bigger, it actually sounds the same suppression-wise, and due to the fact that the Taquito diameter is a little bit smaller, it actually gave us the back pressure we needed to actually cycle the gun. So Taquito wins. So from that little test we did, both suppressors actually sounded very similar. I wasn't really able to differentiate any significant sound difference, which I was actually very surprised by. Just kind of monkey braining it, bigger suppressor, thicker suppressor, maybe it like eats more sound like a bigger hippo, I don't know. So I really thought that the Bushwhacker was going to be significantly quieter than the Taquito, and that was just wrong. As you can see, the gun actually still functioned a lot better with the Taquito when compared to the Bushwhacker 46. I think just the smaller bore on that Taquito was maybe giving us a little bit more back pressure, allowing us to cycle those 22 rounds a little bit better. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, I'm just the YouTube guy, but I was pleasantly surprised to see that I could run a smaller, lighter suppressor on my pistol setup and still get the same sound performance as running this big old brick on the end. And no hate on Griffin Armament at all, I do really enjoy this can. It's just not a dedicated 22 can like the Taquito. So after that direct comparison, I did want to go ahead and just test the accuracy of the gun, both with and without the suppressor. Again, I do kind of live in the online world, but a lot of people in the comments are always saying like, oh, don't use a suppressor, it's going to make your gun like inaccurate and not function well and all this stuff. So I did want to just kind of throw in a little accuracy test just to kind of scientifically disprove that rumor. So some people will say that adding a suppressor like the Taquito here is actually going to make your shots a little bit less accurate. We're going to go ahead and just disprove that myth right here and confirm that our little 22 suppressor, the Taquito here, does not mess with the accuracy of the gun. So we're going to go ahead and bang out 5 rounds suppressed, 5 rounds unsuppressed, and compare the groups. So we're here at about 10 yards. I'm going to just go nice and slow, pop off 5. All right, let's go see that group. So I was aiming for the number 5 right here. I think my optic's off a little bit, but that's a pretty tight group at about 10 yards there. So we'll go ahead and take the suppressor off, pop 5 more rounds, see that grouping. You definitely tell it's a lot louder. Let's go see that group. Okay, so we have the same gun, same yardage. You can see that group is just about the same. I know I stacked a couple of them there, but basically the same group with and without that Taquito suppressor. So can confirm the Taquito does not interfere with the accuracy of your weapon. So as you can see, no big difference in the groupings of the gun with and without the suppressor, which is great. So another important thing to note about a 22 suppressor specifically is that you probably should get a user serviceable suppressor. Well, what does that mean? It means you can rip it apart and clean it. And that's just going to be important because that 22 rimfire cartridge round is just, it's incredibly dirty. It dirties up the gun, it dirties up the suppressor, and if you're not really able to clean the suppressor, it gums up, it gets really dirty, and the life of the suppressor drastically decreases. And luckily, the Fletcher Rifle Works Taquito is super easy to take apart, clean, and put back together. All right, so pretty easy to take this apart. We're just gonna unthread it from our gun. From here, both the end cap that screws onto the gun and the end cap where the bullet comes out will unscrew. And then we have all of these baffles inside, and these baffles will go ahead and kind of push out for us. Obviously, I did shoot 1,000 rounds through this, so it's pretty dirty. I might have to take a little punch and rubber mallet to kind of bang these out. So we got some of those baffles out there, and we'll just finish knocking these other ones out. And from this point, we can go ahead and clean all these baffles. So I just went ahead and wiped everything down with Hops 9 and just some Q-tips. If I really wanted to clean the hell out of this, I'd probably grab a wire brush and scrub some of this carbon off, but I don't really have the time. So this is what you get. So for these baffles, they don't have any particular order, so we'll just stack them on top of each other and go ahead and slide them back in the suppressor. We did funnels this way, so we'll go ahead and put the 1/2x28 thread adapter on this side so that the funnels are again facing the muzzle of the gun. And we'll go ahead and throw that end cap on the other side. And there you go. Fully cleaned, user serviceable suppressor, ready to throw back on our gun. So let's go ahead and do last shots and final thoughts. All right, so we have the last 10 rounds in the 1,000 round range review of the Fletcher Rifle Works Taquito suppressor. Overall thoughts from this 1,000 round range review. One, for some reason my Ruger Mark IV is not cycling very well without the suppressor. So without the suppressor, it's a lot less fun. With the suppressor, it's actually been very quiet, definitely hearing safe. We saw the Taquito perform just as well as that big old Bushwhacker 46. We've seen the gun perform better with the suppressor than without. Overall, we have a very affordable, lightweight, user serviceable suppressor that actually makes the gun a little bit more reliable, and it's a lot of fun. So last 10 rounds, we're gonna send it. Jam. Dude, I'm gonna go complain to Ruger about this. Let's see if we can go 10 for 10. I think we might go 10 for 10. Well, now you know it's the 1,000 rounds. Oh, we got 2 in a row. All right, there we go. All right, the Fletcher Rifle Works Taquito, everybody. So overall impressions on the Taquito, and do I recommend it? I mean, we have a $300 22LR suppressor that's small, lightweight, user serviceable, does amazing sound reduction, actually increased the reliability and function of the gun, kept our accuracy, and overall was just a ton of fun to shoot. I'm absolutely gonna give this bad boy the muzzle broke stamp of approval here. Although we did have malfunctions with the gun, I had no malfunctions or issues with the Taquito suppressor itself, and I think for the price point on the Taquito, you're really getting a great bang for your buck. But if you want a little bit even more bang for your buck, use code BROKE at checkout. You can get 10% off your Fletcher Rifle Works Taquito. So you can get even more of a deal. But I did really have a ton of fun shooting this guy at the range. It was really fun to do 1,000 rounds through this. So highly recommend you pick yourself up a Taquito suppressor from Fletcher Rifle Works. I really do appreciate you guys watching this video today. If you could subscribe to the Muzzle Broke channel, it does really mean a lot to me. We do have an amazing subscriber community here, and I would love for you to be a part of that. Let me know what y'all thought of this video and the Taquito suppressor, because you guys always seem to pick up something that I don't in these videos. So let me know down below. I hope y'all have an amazing week, and I will catch you at the next Muzzle Broke video.